I don't know what.
All right, what is up, everybody? I'm JJ Russell, VP of Sales.
I'm Matt Stovall, Sales Director here at Vsimple.
Yeah, and the Vsimple team, super excited to be spending time with those of you who are giving us an hour here today to dive into how you can be getting more out of AI, specifically in the equipment dealer and distributor space. So Matt, we're working with people that are in the space all day long.
That's right.
And I've been doing that pretty exclusively for the last 4.5 years.
That's right.
So super excited to dive in and talk about kind of what's happening in the AI landscape. And then Matt specifically is going to dive in and talk about best practices, kind of what's cutting edge, where we're seeing AI create the biggest impact specifically for businesses like yours. So kind of a breakdown of how this time is going to go. I'm going to spend 10 minutes talking about the current state of AI, what's going on in the world around us, how you can make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve and keeping up with innovation that's going on in the world right now. And then I'm going to pass it to Matt, and Matt's going to get a little bit more into the tactical, the granular, what steps can you take to stay ahead? What is a framework, a really practical framework that you and your leadership team can execute on to make sure that you're leading the pack as we head into this AI revolution that we're sitting in the middle of.
It's not a fad, right? It's not going away.
Yeah.
This is real. I think some of the numbers JJ is going to show you, it's very tangible in today's market, but as you'll see where it's going and what it's going to become is hard to even conceptualize at this point. But we do have some really practical examples of how industry leaders are leveraging AI today, as well as even people that we work with who are in the space or kind of in the infancy of exploring AI and how it might be applicable to their business. And so, as he mentioned, we're going to have some really hands-on examples of what tomorrow can look like.
Awesome. So who are we? Vsimple. We are an operations platform, specifically an AI-powered operations platform that is helping equipment dealers, distributors, again, companies like yours pull together their teams, their people, their data, their systems that, as we'll get into, have historically been fragmented, maybe more fragmented than you know. We are pulling them together into one system, and we've got a team of customer success, implementation experts, process optimization experts that work with you and your team to help make sure that your systems are optimized and ready for the AI adoption that our clients are undergoing and that your company does need to go or undergo to stay ahead of what's coming. So we have a really unique lens into the systems, the technology, and kind of the direction that they're heading. So we've got a unique platform to talk through and from here today. A couple things, just some housekeeping here. Q&A, we got Austin in the room with us who's pressing all the buttons and got the lights behind the scenes. So he'll be curating questions. Hopefully there are some really good ones. So as thoughts come up, even if they feel stupid or small, drop those in the chat and Austin will make sure that he gets those to us at the end. So we'll be about 30 to 35 minutes on the presentation and then we'll leave plenty of time at the end for Q&A.
Perfect.
Awesome. Let's jump into it. So as I mentioned, what does the landscape look like? We're going to sit here for about 10 minutes. This study that I'm going to reference here is a McKinsey study that took place originally in about 2017. The name of the study is down at the bottom of the slide here. So the economic potential of generative AI, the next productivity frontier. And what they were looking for was, what is the time horizon within which AI is going to replace the tasks, the work, the time that we're spending doing things every day in our businesses. And so, as you're digging in, I know there's a lot of bars and slopes and things, but what I'm wanting to point out is this midpoint, the midpoint that's at the center of the slide here, that's when they are assuming, kind of conservatively, that AI and automation are going to replace 50% of the time that your teams are spending on work every day doing the tasks that are mission critical to your business. So when they ran this study in 2017, they projected that date to be about 2053. What we all know and what we feel and what you at home in your office, wherever you're watching this, I guarantee you feel it as you sit with your leadership teams, listen to your podcast, wherever you get your thought leadership. The tidal wave of innovation, the rate at which AI is accelerating, the technology is accelerating in your industry, it's kind of mind-boggling, as you mentioned. It's here to stay, it's not going anywhere, and it's moving faster than we ever thought. So when McKinsey ran this study again, did somebody switch that for me? Let's see here. So when McKinsey ran this study again, apologies, the midpoint bumped up 8 years. So they ran the study again in 2023 and found that no, it's not 2053, it's actually 2045 when we're going to conservatively see this 50% worker placement from AI. It is wild. And if you see these aggressive numbers, so again, I'm going to flip back and forth. If you look at that leading edge, the aggressive estimate, man, we could see this 50% worker placement as early as 2030. That's at the end of this decade. Yeah. And so what is super important and what Matt's going to dive into is how are you making sure that your business is prepped for this revolution, the evolution of AI. All right, well, understanding the landscape, a couple of interesting studies here. These are pulled from a lot of the leading consulting companies out there that are driving massive studies on the AI landscape. So AI adoption, and we've seen this in the businesses we work with, can drive up to a 40% reduction in operational costs and 20 to 30% boost in productivity. And so, man, if you can be doing 1.5 times what you're currently doing with the same workforce, we're not talking about replacing people. We're talking about driving additional throughput capacity, shortening delivery timelines with the people that you've currently got on your team by increasing that by 40%, increasing productivity by 20 to 30%. Those are the types of gains that people are seeing right now using technology that's available right now. A couple more stats for you. This one's from Microsoft. 79% of business leaders say that failing to adopt this technology puts their business at risk, not in the next 30 years, in the next 3 years. So it's upon us. At the same time, so while everybody knows that this is an existential risk to their business, only 1 in 10 leaders, so that's you at home following along, only 1 in 10 of you feel fully prepared to deploy AI at scale across your organizations. But those who do, what do you get? First mover advantage is still available.
It is.
And I think what we see is the B2B industrial spaces that we work in, man, they've got great business models. They've got customers that love them. They've been doing business with handshakes for the last 50 years. Sometimes have been a little bit slower to innovate and adopt new technologies. Sure. So what is available to you out there in the distribution and equipment dealership spaces, if you can figure out how to apply this throughout your business, which we're going to get into here shortly, you still have the ability to gain an exponential advantage on other competitors in your space.
So many of you are probably already thinking about, well, we do warehouse automation. We do all of these things in the back of the facility that allows our clients to exponentially move their business forward because they're so much more efficient. They're streamlining, from the dock to the pallet to the shelving unit to, all right, distribution, let's get it out the door. That's already been a focus of your business, but now what we want to talk about as we kind of progress here is pulling that internally into the operations, because I think people fall into, myself in
Sure.
as one of them. You don't need a nuclear power plant to run AI.
Yeah.
And it's not just creating fun pictures with your kids on vacation where it's like, turn me into a dinosaur on a surfboard. Yeah, that's cool, but there's practical application to, no. When an order comes in, how are we going to route it to the right people so a decision can be made? And I'm breaking down the walls between my branches, my teams, everything that we're doing. There's practical application today that doesn't require a master's degree in AI or technology.
That's right. I love that. Thanks for the additional breakdown there. So here's what you'll see, and there's not a specific timeline here. This is more just to illustrate those who are able to figure this out. Right? This is not linear scale. This is not linear progression. This is an exponential progression, and so you are either getting ahead or falling behind by that exponential. Yeah. So the importance of getting out in front of this really cannot be overstated. Every month, your competitors, they're learning faster, they're automating faster, they're scaling faster. You want to be on the leading edge there. We work with a lot of companies that are kind of averse to change or just understand that change management in your organization is real. So maybe you implemented an ERP back in 2005, and that was tough. And so thinking about digging into kind of the unknown of AI, man, that can feel like a significant risk to the organization, one that you don't want to jump into. Love this quote, though, from John F. Kennedy. There's risks and costs to action, but they are far less than the long-range risk of comfortable inaction. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting there, thinking, man, it's just easier to stay where we are, it's not true. The status quo is not staying the same. You are actually falling behind those who are willing to innovate. You're here because you see the importance of that. So excited that we're joined by people who understand that change is necessary and you're wanting to learn. So we're really excited to dive in. So as you assess your current situation and as we get into the tactical here with Matt, I'm going to make this statement clear. You are not ready to fully deploy AI into your business if any of these following are true. So take out a pen, be brutally honest with yourself. This is a counseling session from our room here in Vsimple into your living room or your boardroom. You're not ready to deploy AI if your tech's fragmented or worse, still on paper. So we still run into people with filing cabinets that are being utilized every day. You're not alone. If your legacy ERP is way past innovating again, think about what phones were in 2004 or even the late 2000s.
Yeah.
A lot's happened since then, so you're behind. Your knowledge is locked into heads. We see a lot of tribal knowledge. Who was the lady that hadn't taken a vacation in like 15 years? Do you know what I'm talking about? Brenda or something like that?
Well, and I actually came from an onsite this morning, and as we were in our deep discussion here, it was like, well, this is the way we've always done it with this customer. We've done it this way for 5 years. It's been really fruitful up until this point, but hey, you know what? We're growing, we're scaling, we're adding new people into the workforce. They don't want to walk into, this is just the way we've done things forever. This is my knowledge that I have. It's no, it has to be accessible, it has to be obtainable for everyone, and it's got to be simple. So tribal knowledge, it exists at Vsimple, it exists in every business out there. But the more of it that is present, the less likely you are to take advantage of what's next.
We love the Brendas out there. We're not hating on them. Everybody needs a Brenda. You're not ready to take full advantage of AI if your data is disconnected.
Huge.
If your technology platforms are fragmented. If as a leader you have to go to 5 different places to find the reports that are critical to your business. If critical info is trapped in spreadsheets. So if you've got shadow spreadsheets across the organization, every organization's got 2 or 3 people that are just incredible Excel or spreadsheet wizards.
Yep.
And those end up becoming like really critical to the day-to-day operations of your business. Or if you lack the expertise to upskill your team on these new kind of AI tools that are out there or workflows that are now dependent on AI capabilities. So we're going to jump into, if this is you, this is a perfect place for you to be. Matt's going to jump in right now to how we can get you out of this state using a very simple, streamlined, practical framework to help you adopt AI.
Great. So every day, I think about this. As I drive to work, I always catch up on my news because we're kind of in a sports lull. Sorry, baseball fans, but until football comes around, I'm not listening to my morning sports. I'm listening to the news, and without fail, there's an IBM ad, and I think it's super relevant. They've got 65,000 consultants across the globe, and all they talk about is, hey, if we can pull your teams together and consolidate where all this stuff lives, then you're prepared for AI. So it's not just trying to find a tool for this, a tool for that, a widget here, so-and-so in the organization or the enterprise has found something that's really effective for them. You need to be thinking more holistically. You need to think broader. How is this going to be applied to the business as a whole? And so when we start talking to other groups and really try to simplify, what does that roadmap look like? We really land on 4 essential building blocks to achieve that next level of scalability and efficiency. The first, Vsimple, you got to simplify what you're doing.
This is unfun.
And it's really challenging for groups because you're breaking down tribal knowledge, you're breaking through how do we communicate, the documents that live in our business, the filing cabinets that are in the back room. Everything needs to be evaluated, and that does take a little bit of time. That does take some change. But when you start to break down how things occur between my different teams, my different processes, my different business lines, and I simplify it down, what you're able to really uncover is that, hey, if it took us 30 steps to execute a work order, or someone has a need for some used equipment from us, or we're quoting a big warehouse project. If that generally takes 30 steps, what happens if we can simplify that down to 20 or 18, or in a great place, 15? Eliminating half those steps through automation and simplification means that we're putting 20 to 25% of your team's time back in their calendar so that they can go focus on value-added activities for the business. There are tools out there today that are completely free. You might have to pay a little bit more, but think about when you can audibly talk to your process. Hey, how do we sell something? How do I service something? How do I track my warranties or my finance documents? I can audibly speak that into existence. I can drag and drop that into a tool that'll put it onto a process map for me. And we've called out some examples here. But when you're able to visually look at your process and look at how many times you ping pong from this team to this team, I get an answer here, I copy this person, I Slack them, I yell over the wall, I call the client. How many times does that occur? Well, when you can visualize that, you can really start to break that down. So certainly think that simplifying process is the absolute foundational piece for preparing for AI. You start with sales, you start with ops, you start with fulfillment, installation, the service, the warehouse. Any group, start with one place, break it down, analyze what's going on, and then you're able to say, all right, I can now see my landscape, what's next? Well, let's integrate. And I think integrate for most folks, especially coming from a technology company, you're thinking, oh, integrate my softwares.
Sure.
Absolutely. That has to be a component of this equation, but it's more about integrating my communications, integrating my documents, integrating my answers. How long does it take us to do these things? When I consolidate where the activity occurs, I can then understand the timing implications, the metadata, the things that we all have assumptions about. I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like they take too long. I feel like every time I submit a work order or an order or I have a question, my team, they take too long, they drop the ball, it's incomplete.
Right.
When you start to pull all of those different pieces together, you eliminate the feelings and you're left with the data, the action, right? I can measure, I can review, I can see it. Simple things about breaking down these silos. It's like when I have a rental request for a piece of equipment, right? I need to be able to see what's in our inventory. Has sales worked on it? Have we quoted it out? If so, what does that quote or what's the composition look like?
Yeah.
Okay, when was the last time was it serviced? When's it due for service next? Are those service obligations under warranty or under our kind of, purview? There's a million different considerations that need to come to fruition. I pull that together in a simple place, I'm much more prepared to take action. So simplify where things are happening, then I start to integrate all those different components together. And it's just some basic questions for you to consider, right? Like, am I consistent in how I'm doing things? Can I trust my data? I mean, it's a cliche, but it's there for a reason. Garbage in, garbage out. Controlling for the integrity of your information is pivotal, right? And being integrated with visible, ownership, throughput, inputs, all of that coming together means I can now trust what I'm looking at, right?
If you have any systems where the data stops flowing,
Yeah.
right? You have to, we have to go look at this system to get the data, and then we have to enter it manually into this other system. That's a good, symptom or sign that your tools and your systems aren't integrated.
Automate, almost to the top of the pyramid. But very honestly, if you haven't focused on the first two steps, this third one is going to feel like a light year ahead, and it shouldn't, right? Because what we're talking about through automation is saying, hey, every time I sign up a new customer, I have a finance approval process. I have to understand how we're going to work together economically before I can go procure some piece of equipment or go execute on a project or start ordering all these different attachments and ancillary products and things that are, we're going to put together as part of this project. I have certain things that I must work through. So automating is being able to let the system acknowledge the prerequisites and requirements of the business and then facilitate making sure that those occur. That's from a communication standpoint, that's approvals, that's escalations, that's engaging with your customers through the most automated way as appropriate, right? So I want to make sure that our relationship with my customers, we're transparent, we're timely, they know exactly where we sit, and if something's in their court and I'm waiting on them, they know it, right? And being able to have clear visibility into that allows me then to connect all the dots. I think automate and AI kind of get interchanged, and something I like to think about as we kind of transition into, all right, we'll talk about AI. Automate is allowing the business to decide what needs to occur given the circumstances or the variables that I'm presented. This is how we want to do business. This is how I want to go to market. This is the margin I want to strive for. These are the escalations and the approvals and my teams. This is how we want to operate. Leadership gets to decide what's important, what to measure. When we start to transition into, okay, now what's next? We're going to start talking about AI. The difference between automation and AI is now AI is letting the robot, the computer, the program start to review the business rules and the guidelines, infer what you're trying to have as an end result or what you're trying to accomplish, and then make suggestions and take action to achieve those results. If those results are unclear, if my data is not pulled together, it's going to be telling you things that aren't really achievable. It's going to be guiding you down a path that might not be a proper one. So coming full circle here, that's when we're able to really leverage AI. After I've simplified what we're doing, after I've pulled my people, my documents, my communications, my systems together, then I've started to define how this needs to operate at scale across the enterprise. Then I'm going to start to accelerate. And that's when AI really becomes exciting.
And to circle back to your idea around AI readiness, right? It's the IBM talk track, 65,000 consultants, right?
It's crazy.
If you don't do these things, and so right now people are asking, how do I deploy AI? How do I deploy AI? They cannot capitalize on it. And we're going to get into what AI done well looks like and some of the ways we're leveraging it and best practices as we wrap up the framework here. But if you've not simplified, if you've not integrated, if you've not automated, a lot of the leverage that we're able to help our clients create through AI is unavailable to you. And as we looked at the acceleration, the innovation kind of timeline and chart, as the technology grows month after month and year after year, the additional benefits of AI, its ability to actually do work for you, you're going to miss out on all of that too. And so these really are the mission critical steps. They don't sound as fun. It's not a point solution. You can just go and, hey, let's just go buy this one subscription today. These are the hard things that you are going to do to separate your business from the rest of the people in your competitors.
Yeah, and certainly we recognize, our audience is pretty broad here. We're talking to folks that have never heard of Vsimple, folks that might have talked to us once or twice at a trade show or convention, or you're an existing client, we have a relationship. So I just wanted to highlight a couple things real quick about what Vsimple has specifically done to address AI for our customers. And I'm going to boil it down into 3 categories at a really high level, just for timeliness sake. But the first, I think being able to walk in the door and say, tell me about my customer, tell me about the life cycle that we've shared, who's worked on them, how much work have we done, what's the current stage or status of that relationship. Being able to summarize and ascertain exactly what's going on in that moment with a customer is huge, especially as you bring on new talent, especially as you grow your existing book of business. You go open a new branch, open a new service line, being able to quickly wrap your arms around, what have we done with this group? Like, I need to understand that relationship. So the first thing is, just basic summarization capabilities, and then being able to identify other customers or potential prospects that fit that mold to equip your sales team with more insight and visibility into future business opportunities. So the first is really summarizing and simplifying down the data that exists on the relationships with your customers. The second piece, I think, is really pretty interesting as you pull all of your information together and you pair it with the timeliness of how activity comes to fruition. So empowering your analytics with AI so that you can simply get in there and say, hey, what makes us win? Where's my fastest throughput? Do I want to do projects with the hospitals or the schools? Do I want to target the water company or do I want to target the software company? When AI has the ability to look at sales pipeline, right, profitability, your margins, then I can look at throughput with my ops. Then I can look at financials, what's been realized. Now I'm painting comprehensive views of the business that afford me much greater insight when all that information's together. So consider the fact that If your CRM is independent, your sales team is operating in a silo, your ops team totally operating off spreadsheets or a different tool set or a different tech stack, my ERP, my QuickBooks, my financial management system, totally independent. You can go in there and you can say, hey, what makes us win? And all three of them, if they leverage AI, are going to come back, and the CRM is going to say, this one over here because it's got the highest booking value.
That's right.
It's your revenue, right? Your throughput, your project management system is going to say, oh, when you do these widgets, because there's no change orders, you hit the order button, we process them really quick, and it looks great on paper.
Yeah.
Your ledger is going to have a completely different story. So prompting AI to independently look at those solutions or processes, while their answers are right,
It's incomplete.
you're going down three different paths. So being able to pull this together from an analytical standpoint, when you have all that data in one place, asking it, how do we win? And then the last example that I think, there's two lenses to kind of evaluate this through. And I think everyone on the webinar here will have experience with it. It's being able to create and parse very complex documents in a moment. So when I talk about creation of documents from an engineering standpoint or a warehouse solutions standpoint, being able to say, pull all of this data together, pull all of these variables together, create me a long form or a long text proposal. Well, hold on, now it's in this market and it's for this vertical and it's existing customers, so these are other considerations. Generate me a proposal that I can immediately have available for my team. That saves each one of my sales members 30, 40 minutes every single time. And then on the inverse of that, or the flip side, when I go create a project or I'm ordering from 3 different vendors and there are numerous line items, numerous attachments, numerous features or things that have different ship or install dates, when you can just drag that into an application, have it go through, pull out the necessary details, and then you can say, hey, I expect it to be here tomorrow. If that's true, don't bother me. If that's different, I need you to inform me. I need you to inform my colleagues, and we need to have a conversation about it because that's not what we are expecting. So being able to have the system analyze the information that's coming internally and externally with your partners, and then informing the team on the actions and activities that need to take place, that's a game changer. I mean, I've seen some of the equipment quotes that are out there. It's like multi-pages. It's coming from a lot of different places. Then I've got this vendor, this PO, this bill of material. I got to kind of aggregate it together. That's my project. When I can do that in milliseconds, that's really powerful.
Huge impact.
So what we thought we'd kind of transition over to real quick is just a real world example that we've got here. So we'll transition to this video for just a couple seconds, and then we'll come back and kind of wrap up here as we move forward.
Hello, I'm logged into one of Vsimple's order management demo accounts where we've enabled VAI. I'm on the order page for an example order, and because VAI is enabled, the VAI sidebar appears here on the right. When I click that, I can ask one of the predefined questions here, or I can ask any question I have about what's been discussed in the activity stream, any of my docs shared, or the order info for this record. So if I ask a question about the warranty, for example, it will analyze all the information tied to this record, and it gets back to me and says that the warranty registration is marked as complete. That's great. Let's say I have a question about a shipment tracking number. It'll respond with the information related to that tracking number as well. And you can really ask any question you'd like to the VAI sidebar. We've started by adding this to the record page, but we'll be expanding the information that it can access and other places where the sidebar will appear in the app going forward.
All right, so hopefully that was just a quick snippet to make it a little bit more tangible for you guys. As we kind of wrap up this conversation today, I think this is an an unfortunate realization for a lot of organizations. I think when I'm talking to folks, there's a sliding scale here.
Yep.
We've been slow to adopt technology, just generally speaking. So I've got an ERP or I've got a financial management system, and everything else is kind of like a smart sheet, a spreadsheet,
Sure.
something like that. Or if I swing the pendulum to the other side, I've got 13 tools that my team uses every single day. They're all best of class, this or this or this. They're all point solutions. And within both scenarios, what you find is there's no connectivity. There's no integral, flow of information between the systems, between the departments, the teams, the people in order to execute. So this on the screen is really what you need to focus on avoiding. If these are all siloed solutions, your barriers to communication are going to persist. Each one of your tools is going to have an AI feature. They're going to have an agent. It's going to be great at doing a specific niche task. But I challenge you to think comprehensively about the operations of the business. How do I have visibility across quote to cash, exactly everything that's going on, so that when I do layer in AI as an application, it's got visibility into everything, not just one section of the business.
Well, and the other thing we're visualizing here is better than nothing, but all the little AI agents out there, if your leadership team or department heads in your organization are just leveraging ChatGPT, and so now you've got a bunch of fragmented GPT or Gemini or Copilot accounts, what you're missing out on there is synergy, long-term learning, right? So if John has an input and he asks the AI something and he learns something valuable, and that's in operations, but Nancy in sales never learns from that same thing that the AI just generated, you're really missing out on opportunities. And so we want to bring together AI across the organization that can create business value.
And that's really what Vsimple is all about. And it's consolidating the tools, the decisions, the documents, the communications, and putting it into a place that we can simplify and automate so that you are prepared for tomorrow. And as JJ's kind of hammered on here, tomorrow was actually yesterday. We thought it was a couple weeks, couple months, couple years down the road. And as I joked about it, you don't need a nuclear power plant. You don't need a PhD in technology to figure this out. There are applications today that you can go take advantage of, but be cognizant of the steps that are really important to walk through before you take that journey. And if you're already down that path, fantastic. Use this as an opportunity to kind of evaluate those foundational pieces and say, ooh, is there an area in the business that we can focus on? Because it is going to accelerate things, the good and the bad, the good and the ugly. So if you're doing things improperly, or you're still relying on tribal knowledge, or you still got disjointed applications, AI is only going to kind of accelerate that and persist it into the future. So really be cognizant of that. And so kind of just to wrap up here, things you can walk away with, things you can do immediately. Go map a process. If you've already got it documented and it's been mapped and it's been a couple years, guarantee it's changed. There's easy tools you can leverage. Just do some voice to text, drop it into an application that'll put it onto a pretty flow chart. Then I can kind of evaluate it.
Well, and you can ask it, right? So you could say, these tools are smart enough. Hey, play the role of a expert, process optimization consultant and audit this process and tell me what you.
Going up, or I guess we're going up the pyramid here. Integrate, automate, and apply the AI. So you can independently tackle each one of these bullets. For us, it's super exciting when a customer we started working with 3 or 4 years ago, they might have come to us and said, hey, I've got 20 automations and 20 validations. Automations are the system kind of taking course of action based on the rules. A validation is preventing an action or preventing an activity. And we started with 20 here and 20 there. Now we're up to 175 just for the use process. And then my warehouse has 180 automations and validations. So you can incrementally kind of build upon all of these things. And it's being able to take action, but also prevent inactivity. That's another consideration, I think, as you evaluate what to do from your homework. What happens if a quote sits in my queue for an hour, or a day, or a week, or a month? Like, what do we want to have accomplished? It's not just about taking action based on what's happening. It's also reminders and assignment of tasks, and making sure that we're constantly doing our due diligence. So identifying these, workflows, trying to eliminate the manual pieces. A good rule of thumb that we kind of always talk about here internally is there's probably a third of the steps that you can eliminate if you write them out. There's probably a third of your steps that you can automate just through technology. And then you're left with a third, because that's work, and we all got to do a little bit of it here and there.
Believe it or not, in the age of AI.
So it's not going to replace people. I think that the way I think is most valuable to think about AI is it's not about reducing headcount or reducing overhead from a capital standpoint. It's how do I make my teams more effective and efficient, so that as we grow and as we scale, I'm investing in the things that will help us make more money, help us have a bigger territory, help us expand into new service lines or new markets, and technology is absolutely an avenue to facilitate that growth.
And one thing I'll add here as we end, some of the results we're seeing. So people that are doing this, right? We had a $250 million material handling company in the Midwest. They just came to us and they said, hey, we doubled our top line production with the same headcount in our coordinator and administrator roles. So there was no additional lift from the manual labor and tasks that are getting done because they're automated inside of Vsimple. Had another client just come to us that's been with us for 3 years and say our throughput time or speed to delivery increased by 200%. So they doubled speed to delivery on, for them, lift trucks. But there really is, maybe if you could 2x what you're doing without increasing headcount, that's significant impact. I'll prime the pump for this guy here, kind of champion him. Been with a lot of different sales orgs. Our goal is not to just sell you out of the gate. We want to create a ton of value. We have people meet with us all the time. They will point in a different direction if it's not a great fit, but we really do have a unique lens into what's happening in the distribution, material handling, equipment dealership space, and you're talking to them every day. And so if you need a great resource, if you have a really specific questions that you don't want to drop in the chat here and have discussed on the live video, and you want to bring those to us, Matt is absolutely the best person to talk to. So take your phone out. If you're interested, scan the QR code. That's going to send you straight to Matt's calendar. You've already kind of heard from him. He's got a lot of knowledge in the space. If we need to pull in one of our solution specialists that's worked hands-on with 50 of your peers, 60 of your peers, we will get them in the room. We would love to talk to you. We want to continue to dig our roots deep and build relationships in this space with leaders like you. Appreciate y'all joining. Matt, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to y'all at home or in the office again. And I think now we'll cut to questions. So, Austin, do we have any questions? If not, this will be that awkward, embarrassing moment where we just kind of end the video.
No, we have some great questions in here, Matt and JJ. So, one question from Larry when you all were walking through the sidebar demo is this available today?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a couple things going on. The way, and I think you guys should really appreciate this methodology, but the way we've approached AI has been very deliberate and intentional. It's not just saying, okay, open up my organization to the Google and just be like, go find me 7 customers that look like this. There's some effectiveness of that, but the way we're implementing and delivering our AI is very intentional.
Yeah.
It's focused inward first. So how do I optimize internal operations? And then it's accessing external resources to complement that process. So as this is maturing, in the greater industry, but for Vsimple in particular, the sidebar is available, absolutely. There's search functionality, there's reporting functionality, there's parsing functionality. That's all available to you today. I think that an interesting point we touched on a little bit at the beginning is, when you consider a traditional ERP or an older SaaS platform, those guys are kind of doing biannual releases, maybe a quarterly release here and there. And
not here.
Generally speaking, that's focused on improving things that might get broke or antiquated or UI UX things. Vsimple is updating every 2 weeks. Like without fail, 2 weeks we're updating and improving our platform. So I share that because those components of the AI are available today. But what it looks like in July, September, October, next year, I mean, it's exponential capabilities and growth, but we're implementing it very deliberately based on the feedback from our clients. We've actually had like a pilot group, if you will, a beta group kind of guiding and steering us through this development process since the beginning of the year. So we were a little quiet on all the capabilities, but as we hit the summer and start to roll out, you'll see a lot more information about this from us.
2 quick things I'd add. One is, Matt said, hey, we're innovating it as fast as we can with prudence and wanting to make an impact. What this looks like next year is AI is doing work in your business if you're a client of ours. Now, we're going to be really careful on how we deploy that. But it's not just like asking questions on a record or about your metadata. It is, we are going to train your AI to be a coordinator or an assistant or an administrator that's getting in there and actually doing work in the digital space. So we're moving fast. The second thing that I would add is our team works hands-on with your team every week. So where you sign a contract with a lot of these software companies out there, they promise you the world and then they meet with you quarterly just to upsell you on the next thing. We meet weekly, bi-weekly with most of our customers, and the question is, what do you need? What impact are we making? Are you using the tools we've given you? And so what we get is a ton of feedback. So on that product development roadmap, we are really steering and guiding based on the feedback we're getting weekly, bi-weekly from our customers. Hopefully that was helpful. What else you got, Austin? Thank you for the question.
We got a great question from Nicole who's asking, using AI, can it generate a pro forma invoice for a customer based on what's on the card? Because right now it's double data entry for Nicole's team to create them for the customers and to be a huge time saver. And Matt was echoing Nicole's question of just, we request pro formas all the time. It would be a great feature. So is it possible?
Yeah, so in the simplest of terms, if their inputs and the data is accessible to Vsimple or to our application, yes, we can create any number of standardized documents on your letterhead with your formatting, your palette. The caveat is, do we have the inputs and the variables that are required to create such a pro forma? So if that data is being fed over from another system or your team is persisting and maintaining it inside of Vsimple's records, odds are we can take a look at that and knock it out. I'll never guarantee it because there's a lot of complexity that can come into equation, like exactly how granular are we going, what calculations are being made, what are we disclosing, but I definitely think that's something you should raise with our team and have that conversation. So definitely just scan the code, drop that information over to me, and I'll make sure that we follow up appropriately. But on the surface, yes, we absolutely can.
I will say too, if it is a strict calculation where X times Y always equals Z, if that's how the pro forma is driven, if it's just making calculations based on specific properties and numbers, we can 100% generate that inside of Vsimple. If it's hey, we need to look at these 10 different factors and make some assessments that are more custom, that would be an AI-driven output. We don't have the ability to generate a document based on that right now, but I think we could run that analysis with the agent. That'd be interesting to explore. So jump in with us. Let's try it in real time and see what we can do. All right.
Awesome.
What else we got?
One question from Kirsten Ritchie, and this is a broader AI question, but would AI be able to pull and aggregate data from multiple table sections and then have them pulled into one Excel file? So multiple orders kind of thing.
For sure. Yeah.
I don't even know if that's AI. I think that might just be how you integrate your system.
Yeah. The short answer is absolutely. Yeah. I think it can do a whole lot more than just pull it together for you. I think the way you connect your documents and your systems together will influence how that is achieved. But yeah, that's absolutely achievable today.
Well, and as we visualize data, right? Like a lot of times we're showing it to our clients on a card view or in a step-by-step process view, but there are situations where showing just a strict spreadsheet that is pulling together a bunch of different data sources and showing it all in one place as a visual, we can absolutely do that. Or where it's rolling into a really well-built dashboard that our team deploys. Yeah, so we can do it. I don't know. There's other ways I'm sure other companies would facilitate that, or you could try to DIY it yourself. But if the question is, can Vsimple do it, or is it possible? I'm pretty confident the answer is yes. Okay. Well, thank you guys for joining us. 45 minutes. Matt, I feel like we nailed the time.
Good.
Hopefully y'all stuck around. And yeah, if you have questions, concerns, if you liked anything we said and you just want to hang out with us, if you have feedback for us, scan the QR code, let us know, or visit vsimple.com to find more stuff about us. Looking forward to continuing to support the industries that we champion. And Matt, thanks a lot for your time, man. You did a great job.
Same.
All right. Catch y'all next time.
See you guys.
Thank you.